and Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, he says it plainly in there, because most of these key details and the shady stuff you learn from real estate investors.
Yeah.
They're the ones that have all the dirt on how the system works. You're not going to get answers from ufologists. You're not going to get answers from theologians. You have to talk to people who deal hardcore with economics, real estate investors. All right, they know all the dirty, shady secrets about how the system works. Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, he says it plainly in his second book, Cash Flow Quadrant. The system works as long as nobody asks any questions about the house of cards that we're working in.
Yeah.
As soon as you start asking questions, this entire house of cards will come crashing down.
Yeah.
And he admits that right in his own book, Cash Flow Quadrant. So that's why I always point, in my lecture syllabus, I point people in the direction of reading books by him, reading books by Donald Trump. Yes, he's a flaming asshole, but his books on real estate are damn good.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And he knows his stuff in terms of business, economics, and tradable commodities in real estate. That you can't argue against.
Yeah.
Russ Whitney, who is basically, your average blue-collar guy who made it big in real estate. With the whole, that whole, what was it? About 10 years ago, there was that whole marketing scheme going on with real estate investing for the average person. The whole thing. Yeah. Are you dumb enough to be rich? Are you dumb enough to know how to do real estate?
Fannie, whatever. What was that? Fannie.
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and all that.
Freddie Mac. Yeah.
But that whole thing. James Bartlett or David Bartlett, Russ Whitney, Robert Kiyosaki. There was a whole flood of, and the reason they were pushing that was, as soon as we got into the 21st century, all these real estate investors knew they were no different than you and me, because there's 3 levels of wealth, and most of your real estate investors who are successful will come from, they're your next door neighbor. Okay, they weren't born with a silver spoon up their ass. They were born at the bottom of the barrel and worked their way up. So when they make their first million, that's the hardest struggle right there.
Yeah.
After you hit the first $1 million mark, then you're on your way. Then you start getting into the the multi-millions, and you start giving back to the community. But what happens is that when you hit the $1 billion mark, then you've reached that third level of wealth.
Yeah.
And that's when you get a knock on the door, and you're told in no uncertain terms how the game is played, and you'll be allowed to keep your wealth as long as you don't use your wealth to empower the people and turn the people against the system.
Yeah, you see that with the sportsmen. A lot of that is they're not allowed. They're basically, the Moorish sportsmen or blacks don't invest in their own communities. Not really.
That's why maybe to you and me, there's no difference between $1 million or $1 billion, but there is a difference in the mentality that goes with that.
Of course.
There's a big difference between a millionaire and a billionaire. It's a totally different psychology, because the millionaire came from our backyard.
Yeah.
Okay? Now that millionaire, those real estate investors about 10 years ago started this movement to get their books out there. Yes, they were making money, obviously. Who wouldn't? But they were pushing to educate the average person on how the system really works.
Yeah.
And so this is where you see this flurry of real estate programs and real estate seminars and all this shit coming out of left field 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. This is where it was coming from, because people like Robert Kiyosaki were leading the way with Rich Dad Poor Dad and the Cash Flow Quadrant. And they were saying, look, this is how the system works. You guys are screwed if you don't do something about it.
Right.
And that's where all these answers started coming from, in terms of how it plays into the Moorish legacy, the Masonic agenda, and the alien abduction phenomena.